This is Derek from ClassicGameRoom.com, and this is why it's always a good idea to check the bargain bin at your local games boutique. This is Order Up for the Nintendo Wii. The cover looks like a still from a Rugrats cartoon, and the game costs less than a couple of value meals at McDonald's. But believe it or not, this culinary adventure is actually one of the coolest Wii games most of us probably didn't even know is on the menu.
Hope y'all got something I like.
Hey there, sweetie. What can I get you?
Now, Order Up is a cooking simulator, but that's only the base of the experience. While games like Cooking Mama and Sushi Go Round focus simply on preparing meals, Order Up really embraces cooking simulation on a much larger scale. This is like a cooking game supersized, with a 6-piece chicken nuggets on the side, and I like the sweet and sour sauce, so we'll go with that one. Players assume the role of a struggling chef with little more than his own ambitions and a spatula. After literally landing on Portobello, an island famous for its superior culinary caliber, you immediately find work in the kitchen. That's the good news. The bad news is that your first place of employment is a local burger joint filled with acne-faced managers and thick puddles of mysterious burger sludge. But swallow your pride and get to work, because these greasy floors are only the starting point for your journey from no-name McSlave to an accomplished chef extraordinaire. Hey, you have to start somewhere, right? Even Bobby Flay started somewhere, and he's like the greatest cook of all time. He's an Iron Chef. And you want to be an Iron Chef too, don't you? Well, slow down, Fry Boy, because first you have to master the game's cooking techniques, learn new recipes to add to your repertoire, and essentially monopolize the Portobello restaurant industry. Order Up is a great game for cooks in training as well as young capitalists, because in addition to making food, you're also an ambitious restaurateur bent on buying as many establishments as possible. In fact, before the credits roll, you'll own and operate a classic diner, Mexican eatery, the upscale Chez Hotel, and many more. And it's your job to improve each business, hire sous chefs, please the stringent health inspector, and earn a prestigious 5-star rating from the finicky food critic, all the while preparing incoming food orders with dual emphasis on speed and quality. Now, that sounds like a lot to chew, but that's actually the best thing about Order Up. It genuinely recreates the frantic, fast-paced essence of food service without the unpleasantness of grease burns, pushy teenage bosses, and working weekends. It does that so well, in fact, that Order Up sometimes feels like real work, which may actually be off-putting to prospective players looking to simply unwind after a stressful day. So here's how it works. Hungry customers enter your establishment in groups, and they quickly begin placing orders, at which point it's time to start cooking. You'll prepare meals in a variety of ways with your handy-dandy Wii remote. You'll swing and chop vegetables with the remote. You'll use it like a soup ladle to mix stew. You'll flip it as you would a frying pan. Just about everything you do in the kitchen relies on motion controls, and for the most part, they actually work in a very enjoyable and intuitive way. When the controls are at their best, the gameplay really benefits from the gestures, and they become second nature. You don't even think about it, and to me, that's the sign of a Wii game that actually gets motion control. Of course, there are going to be a few moments when you'll struggle with some finicky motions, like folding tortillas, for example, and amidst mounting orders and ticking stove timers, that can be an extremely frustrating experience. Fortunately, those moments are in the minority, and most of the time the controls work really well. You can play Order Up with a single remote, but the nunchuck makes the game's optional control scheme the better one. Because the remote's ergonomically inept directional pad and minus button figure largely into your everyday kitchen duties, you'll consistently be forced into really awkward thumb stretching if you play with just the single remote. And that's a problem easily solved by plugging in your nunchuck and using its analog stick and Z button instead. Now, this feels much more natural, and it provides a dual controller experience sort of similar to the one utilized in the Trauma Center series on Wii. And that's a good thing, because I think Trauma Center has some of the best controls on Wii.
Another one for you.
So after you feed your customers artery-clogging heaps of food and they have a heart attack, you'll be ready to just split them open and perform some surgery too. Now that is multitasking.
Hope you enjoyed the meal, Sugar Muffin.
Another cool thing about Order Up is the detail and nuance in the experience. Now, it's not super deep, but for example, you'll eventually get regulars who return to your businesses, and as time goes on, you'll need to learn their specific tastes. One guy may like his food really salty, so you'll have to remember that and compensate for it in your preparation to earn the maximum tip. So there's a little bit of variation between the standard recipes in the game, and there are a lot of them. You also have to hire sous chefs, and each of them has a specific area of expertise. So there's a little bit of strategy in picking which sous chefs to hire for which restaurant. You also have to buy new recipes, earn new spices. It's a much more in-depth experience than most cooking games. But the drawback which really keeps Order Up off the featured menu on Wii is that it's a strict single-player experience, and a fairly short one at that. There's no local or online multiplayer, and the absence of such modes in a game so focused on frantic gameplay and especially delegating responsibilities just seems like a missed opportunity.
You must make this.
I mean, I love playing Order Up and bossing my sous chefs around, but I'd like it even more if I could do that with a friend. You can find this game on eBay over at ClassicGameroom.com, or if you're lucky, those dusty bargain bins I mentioned earlier. But if you go that route, just make sure you wash your hands before you start cooking food.
Chef, you are a real talent. What a wonderful looking meal.
Ooh, it tastes so yummy and I love it and I can't stop eating it.